I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Smack-a-McGob, it's time for the only news that matters. And Billy Corgan, yes, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins recalled how annoyed Eddie Van Halen would get with David Lee Roth's on-staged, antics, noting how the guitarist told him he eventually learned to leave Roth to it and chill out backstage when they happened. While the global guitar community rightly celebrates the life and legacy of Eddie Van Halen as the face of the band that turned 80s rock upside down, there were many factors to Van Halen's success. The tightness of Alex Van Halen and Michael Anthony's rhythm section, their individual qualities as musicians, David Lee Roth's insane and intense charisma, as well as how well it all worked as a whole. However, it is also no secret that some relationships within Van Halen became strained toward the end of the band's initial run. Roth's interludes started to annoy Eddie Van Halen, as Billy Corgan noted during a recent interview with John 5 on the Formers podcast. And this is the beauty of seeing them in 1984, Billy said. It was like the last Flash. Obviously, they did more touring later, but the last Flash, prime of youth, the relationships were still somewhat intact. I saw Eddie from the side of the stage. I was up on the balcony of what was called the Rosemont Horizon back in the day. I could see from the side of the stage, obviously seeing the band, but then I can see Eddie's little guitar world from behind. When Eddie would leave the stage to go have a smoke and talk to his tech, I could see into his little tech world. And Roth was doing these 5-minute, 7-minute jokes, whatever he was doing at the time, and Eddie would just sit there. I could see him shaking his head, getting pissed off. And when I met Eddie for the first time and interviewed him for Guitar World magazine, I asked him about that, and he was like, man, I just got so sick of him just talking, and I would get so mad because I just wanted to play. So I just learned to just leave the stage, let him do his shtick, and then when it was done, I'd come out. So they only played like 9 songs. It was very short, but damn, when they played, holy moly. According to Alex Van Halen, Roth harbored similar feelings toward the time, urging Eddie to take less space with his guitar acrobats. The drummer wrote that in his memoirs of Brothers. So he couldn't handle the fact that Eddie was getting more attention than he was. He kept asking Eddie to play fewer guitar solos. Dave was convinced he was going to be a movie star. All right. Okay. As far as, I don't know what tour he saw them. I guess if it was 1984, they didn't only do like 9 songs. Eddie Trunk said something similar. But Eddie Trunk was talking about the Madison Square Garden show, where you can go on FM.com, and I know there's something like 20 songs, something like that. They played many songs. And people remember Van Halen differently back then. People think that David Lee Roth spent, a lot of time on stage talking. He would, but not more than 2 or 3 times throughout the show. It wasn't always talking. There was a lot of songs in between. And Eddie Trunk said he did his little sword bit for like 7 minutes. It wasn't even a minute long. He said Alex Van Halen did a 20-minute drum solo. It's only 3 minutes. It's not even 3 minutes long. It's less than 3 minutes long. It's all on bootleg from the Madison Square Garden show that Eddie Trunk does not remember well, you know? But yeah, at the time, you know, Dave was driving Eddie crazy, but it was a different time. You know, we cannot relive those days. If you get prime David Lee Roth right now, early 80s David Lee Roth right now, go up on stage and do his shtick in 2025, it ain't gonna fly. It's just not gonna fly. The times are so different now, you know? We got so much information thrust at us. Back then it was so innocent, man. There was no YouTube where you can see, you know, Van Halen, you know, on from somebody's phone back then. You just couldn't. You know, it was impossible. And they're very rare. Van Halen shows, filmed Van Halen shows, are very, very rare. You know, there's a bunch of Diver Down. There's a few 84. There's one of, I think it's in Nashville, Fair Warning. Looks like crap. And I've seen other ones, super 8mm and stuff. So it was all special then. When David Lee Roth would go up there and say the same shit every night, like, look at all the people here tonight, or I forgot the fucking words. Nobody knew this in the next town. Nobody was there to film it and put it on YouTube. You know? So every time Dave would do it, we'd all lose our friggin' mind. And Eddie just didn't dig it. Hey, I get it. Eddie was like, hey, I want to play, you know? And Dave at the other on the other side is like, hey, man, I'm the star here. And Eddie's taking away my mojo or whatever, you know? But it was just a special time, man. We can never relive it, but goddamn, I'm happy I did. I'm happy I lived a life where some guy could just go up on stage. David Lee Roth would walk out on stage, center stage with the light shining on him, and he wouldn't say a word for like a minute, and the whole place would be pounding on their chairs, going fucking nuts, because it was just electricity. And then David Lee Roth would say a bad word, and the place would go even more nuts. Oh, you bunch of crazy motherfuckers. Oh my God, he said motherfucker. I mean, that's how it was back then. Now you say motherfuckers, it's crickets. Nobody cares. It's regular talk, you know? It was just a special time. But, you know, Eddie was getting annoyed with Dave doing his little shtick, you know? But, hey, man, I saw the tour, and as annoyed as Eddie was, where I was... 84, I was on the floor, a little back. I was on the floor, and I didn't see Eddie, you know, getting annoyed with Dave. I was center, 20th row maybe. And it was another electrifying show from the greatest live band I ever seen in my life. Starting in 1980, 1981, the greatest Van Halen show I ever saw. Diver Down. And 1984, they're all tied with, they're all second place to Fair Warning being the best out, but they're all second place. All stellar productions. It was unbelievable. And David Lee Roth, man, when he came out with that solo shit, it was the same crazy energy. And then I saw, you know, the Vangina version, and it sucked. It was terrible. I saw 5150. Unfortunately, free ticket. I got to see BTO though. Then I saw the Monsters of Rock tour because I'd never seen Metallica before. I went with a friend. He wanted to see Vangina, so I hung out on the bleachers and watched Vangina till after the solo, and I couldn't take any more, and I left. Seriously, I saw the greatest band in the world, and then they were the worst band in the world. I'm not saying that because of, I hate Sammy and this and that. No. I didn't hate Sammy that much back then. It wasn't until afterward with all this bullshit. Back then, it was like, I'm just not digging Van Halen. But then Vangina. And then when I saw it live, I was like, yeah, I don't really dig this. I left it alone. I kind of like felt of Vangina like I did Metallica all those years. I didn't like their albums. I didn't bash on them. I just didn't care. And I didn't care about Vangina until Sammy came out with a bunch of bullshit and lying about everything. So that's where you know, my happiness for hating on Sammy Hagar, Belcher, and Van Belcher Gina all came from, you know? And the reason Van Halen ruled so hard was because of the tension between Dave and Eddie. You know, they both like hated each other, but look what they spawned. I mean, one of the darkest times of Van Halen was the Fair Warning era, where Alex felt guilty because Eddie was working his ass off, or the other guys didn't seem to care. But it sounds like they cared if you listen to the album. Dave's bringing his A game, lyric-wise, vocal-wise. But it was that friction that really, you know, brought the hits, you know, and greatest American band, if you ask me. You know, probably the band with the greatest discography with Diamond Dave. All the albums rule. They all rule hard. And I can and you know, the instrumental of 1984 is the only song I don't like off those 6 albums. The only one. You know, I love Jump. I love everything else. That's the only thing I don't like. And that's a pretty good record for 6 records with me. You know, for a band that has 6 records and I dislike only one song from all 6 records. Pretty damn good track record if you ask me. But not everybody thinks like me. Let me know how you think in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching The Only News That Matters. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Ring that little notification bell and like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So, stay frosty. Listen to the Queen song, Son and Daughter, and Schmack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.